Questo è come lo chiamano in Inghilterra. Posso? Ok. Good morning, everybody. I'm Guglielmo Meardi from Scuola Normale Superiore in Florence. Please, everybody, including myself, switch your audio off so that there is no echo. This afternoon, in a few hours, the Industrial Relations in Europe Conference 2021 will start. In the tradition of the IREC conference and in the tradition of Scuola Normale Superiore, we organized a pre-Congress meeting with practitioners, social activists, and trade unionists. We always do it in relation to something that happens in the country which hosts the conference. And in this case, from Florence, we decided to devote this event to the case of the GKN factory of Campi Bisenzio. For those who are not familiar with it, GKN is a British-based multinational with operations in many European countries, which at the beginning of July decided overnight to close the factory of Florence and to make the whole workforce redundant. That is more than 400 workers directly employed, plus other workers indirectly employed. Since that day of the decision of the closure, the workers have been occupying the factory. The conflict is ongoing. We don't know how it will finish. The company has not changed its position yet, we hope. But today is an opportunity for a meeting between researchers, trade unionists, to discuss the meaning, the reasons, the implications of these cases of restructuring at the local level, at the political level, and at the European level. So, the organization of this session is rather informal in comparison to the rest of the conference. So we'll have a shorter presentation and more space for debate. Debate with the colleagues who are in the room, and also with those who are following us from home, who can contribute through the chat, the YouTube chat, and I will read out the questions, contributions, comments that will appear. We will go in this order. Of course, the first to have the floor are the worker collective of GKN. They will tell us our story, and we are very honored and very pleased that they are here to talk to us. Second, we'll alternate trade union voices and researcher voices. I will make some reflection from my own experience of research on restructuring. Then we'll have a contribution from Andrea Brunetti of the Film Metal Worker Trade Union in Florence. Then we have another researcher presentation from Lorenzo Cini, who is an expert of social movement and mobilization. And finally, from Brussels, we'll have a contribution by Dr. Aline Conchon, who is Senior Policy Advisor at Industriol, that is the International European Industrial Sector Trade Union Federation. So we'll have a multi-level discussion, starting from the local to the European, after which obviously we'll open the floor to discussion, contributions, comments, and comparisons. So I finish here. The workers from GKN, the worker will speak in Italian, and therefore I will, or Arianna will, Arianna, you prefer to do it, the translation, or? Because then you use one microphone if you're there, otherwise I will translate. Yes, let's say Arianna will very kindly translate into English this talk. Thank you.
Buongiorno a tutti, sono Roberto Spera, faccio parte dell'RSU della CKN per la FIOM CGL. soprattutto però sono un operaio che lavora da 20 anni in GKN. Ora penso la situazione, insomma, almeno a livello locale si conosca abbastanza bene. Il 9 di luglio ci è stata mandata una mail per avvertirci che l'azienda aveva deciso di chiudere, mentre eravamo in un giorno di parco collettivo, e ora questa situazione qui purtroppo...
Good morning, everyone. My name is Roberto Spera. I am a member of the Factory Collective in GKN, as well as a delegate from trade union from CGL. But most importantly, I am a worker that has been working since 20 years in GKN in Florence. Well, to those who are here in Florence, locally, the situation of GKN is quite well known, in the sense that on the 9th of July, an email was sent to the workers to inform that the firm was going to close down and that they were all going to be dismissed. And this happened on a day in which they were all on a compulsory leave. Il par, no? Sì, ecco, vai.
La notizia appunto ci è arrivata come fulmine a ciel sereno, perché l'azienda non era in crisi, anzi insomma nell'ultimo anno rispetto alla situazione generale dell'automotive eravamo almeno fra le aziende messe meglio, diciamo, almeno nel gruppo della GKN, e c'erano state industrializzazioni e nuove installazioni di macchinari fino a praticamente 2-3 giorni prima della comunicazione della chiusura.
So this news of the closure of the factory came absolutely unexpected, because GKN was not a firm in a situation of industrial crisis. There had been, recent orders and commissions for the pieces that are produced in the factory, and indeed there had also been recent investments and installations of new machineries to update and innovate the infrastructures of the firm.
Questo ci deve far capire tutta questa situazione è stata messa in campo dalla GKN per cercare di impedire anche la legittima reazione sindacale a una comunicazione di chiusura, no? L'avvertimento all'ultimo momento e appunto inaspettato ci ha preso un po' in contropiede, anche se la nostra reazione comunque meno male è stata abbastanza tempestiva. E siamo entrati praticamente da subito dopo la ricezione della mail, forse penso sia un record mondiale, dopo tipo 40 minuti eravamo già in assemblea permanente, quindi insomma come reazione siamo riusciti comunque ad averla. È chiaro che però ci ha impedito di portare avanti la nostra azione sindacale prima appunto della comunicazione della chiusura, e insomma chiaramente è un atto ostile verso tutto il sindacato e tutti i lavoratori.
Clear that the way in which the closure was announced was not by chance done in this way, but was done intentionally in order to prevent a strong trade union reaction, because obviously the news of the closure came unexpected for all the workers, but thankfully the reaction was very prompt, and there was perhaps a world record in the speed in which the workers organized essentially what is a permanent assembly and what has been since then a permanent occupation of the factory in Campi Bisenzio. So, thankfully there were, the organizational infrastructures present to facilitate a fast reaction, but it's clear that the unexpected and unannounced announcement of the closure prevented us from organizing, a union reaction through the usual channels before the communication. So it is to be interpreted as an act that is hostile, an act of hostility towards trade unions and towards organized labor.
Siamo riusciti comunque a organizzare un sacco di iniziative, a partire da 19 luglio, in cui la FIOM CGL ha indetto 8 ore di sciopero a livello regionale, insieme anche CISL WIL 4 ore, giusto Andrea? Provinciale, scusa, dai più bassi. Però insomma è venuto bene, più abbiamo organizzato in autonomia, sempre con la collaborazione comunque della struttura, altre manifestazioni, una il 24 di luglio e un'altra l'11 d'agosto, in un periodo chiaramente difficile, in piena estate, però che sono state molto partecipate. E questa è, diciamo, la nota positiva di tutta questa storia, e che molto probabilmente il lavoro che abbiamo fatto in anni a livello sindacale all'interno della fabbrica a questo punto insomma è tornato indietro. Abbiamo avuto da sempre tanta collaborazione anche con altre realtà, oltre chiaramente alla nostra struttura di riferimento. La nostra RSU è la maggioranza FIOM, però abbiamo avuto contatti con studenti, altre realtà lavorative già da tanti anni, che ci hanno portato una solidarietà attiva, non solo le famose stelle di politici sono venute, ma un gruppo di altri lavoratori che è riuscito a darci mano proprio in maniera fattiva per organizzare tutte queste iniziative e questa cosa sta continuando. Insomma.
So thankfully we managed to get organized quite quickly and to organize a lot of initiatives since the 19th, since the announcement of the closure. So the first one was on the 19th of July. There was an announcement of, an organization of a 4-hour strike in the province of Florence called by all the main metal workers unions that received a lot of participation and was accompanied by a demo in the center of town. And then the factory collective, with the support of the majority union inside the factory, which is FIOM CGL, also organized several demonstrations, one on the 21st of July, one on the 11th of August, which despite happening in what is usually a difficult period for mobilization, because obviously in the summer is always difficult to have high levels of participation, nonetheless attracted a lot of people and an impressive display of solidarity from the local territory. So the positive note from this story of mobilization up until now is that it is clear that the work that has been done over the last many years at the level of trade unionism in the factory is paying off in this conjuncture, in the sense that for many years the local RSU, the firm level trade union representation, together with the factory collective, had established relationships of collaboration with many different realities in the Florence area, from students' collectives to other workplaces, other factories, and all of this facilitated a wide mobilization in which there has been a lot of support coming from very many different realities that are active in the Florence area.
Negli anni, per spiegare un po' la nostra situazione, ci siamo organizzati cercando di allargare sempre più la partecipazione dei lavoratori a quello che è il lavoro sindacale che è dell'RSU, cercando comunque una collaborazione continua e ovviamente abbiamo cercato di allargare proprio quello che è la partecipazione attiva a quella che è la vita sindacale all'interno dello stabilimento, creando in prima un collettivo dei lavoratori, che è un gruppo di lavoratori che si incontravano in saletta sindacale a fine turno o anche in spazi esterni concessici dai vari circoli e realtà che ci aiutano, proprio per rendere più partecipi i lavoratori, perché chiaramente soltanto con le ore di assemblea e la discussione può essere limitata. Quindi la prima cosa che abbiamo chiesto a noi stessi in primis è quello di portare qualcosa in più per l'azione sindacale, essere attori protagonisti in tutte le discussioni, e questo ci ha portato a un livello di consapevolezza e di collaborazione molto maggiore, che poi appunto ci siamo ritrovati anche in questa situazione a affrontarlo meglio. Addirittura 4 anni fa abbiamo fatto un accordo con l'azienda per istituire dei delegati di raccordo. Ora il nome è bruttissimo, però insomma c'è venuto così. In pratica è una specie di iniziale allargamento dell'RSU. Questi lavoratori erano 12 lavoratori, praticamente 4 per turno, perché noi lavoriamo su 3 turni. Mi fermo? Spiegare.
Calma. Allora, so Roberto was just explaining how in the years they have organized their trade union action at the level of the factory floor. So the guiding principle has been that of trying to facilitate as much as possible the participation of all the workers to the work in the activities of the trade union representatives at the factory level, and to broaden participation beyond what is the officially allocated times and slots and channels for trade union activities. So they organized alongside the official trade union structure at workplace level, also a collective which operates at the factory level, which is essentially started off as groups of workers meeting informally outside of working hours, outside of officially allocated working times, in order to increase the chances for workers to be engaged with discussions and with discussion of trade union activities, of management decisions, because the officially allocated time that workers can take off for union assemblies was deemed to be not sufficient to have enough participation. And this helped obviously to increase the levels of awareness and of a practice of participation that obviously proved very helpful in the current conjuncture. And then 4 years ago there was also a relevant innovation introduced in the sense that following an agreement with the firm, the local trade union representatives obtained the creation of new representative figures that operate at the shop floor level, which I don't know how to translate in English, but I will think of a term by the time that my turn comes around next. But yeah, Roberto was going to go on to explain how this works.
Questi lavoratori in pratica hanno 3 ore di permesso sindacale al mese e sono poi il punto di riferimento per ogni reparto, e questo ha reso possibile appunto una maggiore partecipazione e anche di poter entrare in maniera più concreta dentro l'attività sindacale, anche proprio per capire come sono i meccanismi di un'azione sindacale e della contrattazione. E questo appunto ce lo siamo ritrovati, perché adesso insomma siamo riusciti a organizzarci in maniera appunto più tempestiva e più concreta, anche collaborando appunto con le realtà esterne che già negli anni passati con cui abbiamo avuto già tanti contatti anche all'interno dell'azienda, proprio per cercare di far mischiare un po' tutte le realtà, che è quello che penso è la cosa più fondamentale, partendo dagli studenti e da altri lavoratori e lavoratrici. Questo appunto ci ha permesso di avere una grossa solidarietà, però attiva, nel senso alle nostre manifestazioni, che abbiamo organizzato abbastanza in autonomia, sempre con l'appoggio della struttura della FIOM principalmente, però la partecipazione da parte di molti altri lavoratori, che ha reso un po' l'avvertenza, almeno a livello regionale, ma noi speriamo anche a livello nazionale, centrale nel Paese, ma non nel senso che il Paese si deve preoccupare di CKN, ma per cercare di sfruttare quella la visibilità del momento, dovuta anche al periodo post-Covid, lo sblocco dei licenziamenti, il fatto insomma l'azienda abbia fatto questa azione abbastanza molto ostile nei confronti dei lavoratori, ci ha permesso appunto di portare tanta gente in piazza e di risvegliare, almeno a nostro modo di vedere, un po' la voglia di manifestare e di partecipare attivamente. Credo sia fondamentale.
So Roberto was explaining how 4 years ago these new figures were introduced, following an agreement with the firm that operate essentially at the level of the assembly line. So they're sort of like assembly line stewards that have 3 hours of time off for trade union activities per month, and they essentially act as points of reference and representatives for the workers at the level of each assembly line. And this essentially favors and facilitates a lot the concrete participation of workers in trade union action and in bargaining pertaining to the concrete organization of the work process at the level of the assembly line, and has also facilitated the broadening of participation and of workers' engagement with trade union activities, as well as workers' capacity to intervene concretely in matters of decision making over the organization of the work process. So more broadly, obviously, it is clear that the work that has been done over the years to build up the factory collective has facilitated the establishment of lots of contacts with lots of other realities that operate, other workplaces, other trade union representations that operate in the Florence area, which has paid off in this phase, in the sense that it has facilitated facilitated the reception of a lot of active solidarity at all the activities and all the demonstrations and mobilization that have been organized since the GKN dispute kicked off. And it is important to underline that this solidarity came not only from the union structures and union officials, but also from the grassroots levels, from many workers that felt compelled to show solidarity with the GKN workers, not least because in many cases in the past the GKN Workers Collective had extended its own solidarity to many other disputes that were ongoing in the area. And Roberto was also saying how it has been important to link up the dispute at GKN with the broader political context of what is happening in Italy at the moment, in the sense that obviously this case of restructuring comes at a time which is already a time of difficulty for many workers. There has been so in the post-COVID phase, the ban on dismissals that had prevented widespread employment destruction during the COVID crisis has been lifted from July 2021, and so there are many cases of large-scale dismissals happening in many workplaces, in many factories around the countries, and so they have been able to insert their dispute within this broader political context and to reawaken what has been or what was a dormant desire to mobilize on part of many workers and many sections of the population in this post-Covid phase.
Diciamo che la nostra situazione viene dopo varie altre crisi che ci sono state ora ultimamente, ma anche negli anni precedenti, hanno portato insomma a una sorta di desertificazione industriale in Italia, no? Che secondo me ha messo in evidenza il fatto che comunque il Paese manca uno straccio di piano industriale, e anche la legislazione sul lavoro in questi anni è stata attaccata, no? I diritti dei lavoratori sono stati attaccati e questa cosa qui deve cambiare, secondo noi, come vediamo la partecipazione, secondo molti altri. Infatti ora stiamo portando avanti altre iniziative che credo vogliono avere un carattere nazionale, appunto inclusivo, per avere una visione collettiva del problema, non solo centrarsi sulla singola vertenza CKN, e per questo anche siamo riusciti anche a fare una proposta di legge insieme con la collaborazione con un gruppo di giuslavoristi che collaborano comunque frequentemente con i sindacati e anche con le istituzioni, per fare emendare il decreto legge, la bozza di decreto legge Todde Orlando, che è circolata sui giornali, poi è apparsa e scomparsa, ora non si sa più che sia fatto, proprio perché secondo noi le leggi, soprattutto sul lavoro, vanno fatte con le nostre teste e non sulle nostre teste, quindi ci deve essere una partecipazione attiva alla discussione, al processo democratico di tutti i lavoratori, e secondo noi appunto proprio il sindacato in generale, se visto come allargamento e a livello collettivo, può fare da collettore tra i lavoratori e le lavoratrici, la cittadinanza e le istituzioni. È un passo fondamentale e speriamo di poter portare avanti altre iniziative del genere, anzi siamo sicuri di portare avanti altre iniziative del genere.
Obviously, the situation at GKN comes as the last in a string of many other industrial crises, not just in the post-COVID phase, but also in the last few years, which have brought on an increasing, what Roberto called an industrial desertification of Italy, so a erosion of Italy's industrial fabric. And this shows, the case of GKN, like many other cases of factory closure, shows how Italy essentially lacks an industrial policy, lacks a plan of industrial development, and this goes hand in hand with the context in which also labor law and labor rights have been attacked frontally in the last few years. So this situation has to change, in our opinion, in the opinion of the GKN Workers Collective, but also clearly in the opinion of many others, if we take the level of participation in the GKN activities as a testament to the level of salience that this issue has in public opinion. So we are bringing forward mobilizations that are national in character and in ambition, essentially exactly because we want to have an overall broad vision of how the GKN disputes inserts itself in the broader national context rather than just a narrow perspective specifically on the GKN factory. And exactly with this in mind, we have also been developing a law proposal with the collaboration of labor law scholars close to the labor movement, which has the aim of changing or amending the draft of a law decree, which is currently being developed by the current Ministry of Labor, Orlando, and the Deputy Ministry of Economic Development, Todde, which is essentially a law that is supposed to regulate processes of delocalization and offshoring. And we are bringing forward this law proposal because we act in the belief that laws should be done with our heads, so with the heads of the workers rather than over our heads. We believe in the principle that there should be active workers' participation in the formulation of labor law, and we believe that we are convinced that our experience of this dispute and of how it's linking up with national developments testifies to the fact that trade unions and trade union action can act as a very effective channel to connect workers and the broader citizenship with the level of policy making and law making.
Poi volevo invitare tutti alla manifestazione, ci sarà sabato 18 dalla Fortezza d'Abbasso alle ore 15. Il nostro motto è insorgiamo, l'abbiamo copiato, ora ci chiediamo scusa ai partigiani che lottavano insomma per un obiettivo, però anche il nostro nemico insomma è abbastanza subdolo. Questo motto insorgiamo deve far capire insomma che la lotta e le manifestazioni e tutte quante le iniziative devono venire dal basso, devono avere una mentalità collettiva e devono essere comunque anche dure e incisive, perché se no non si riesce a ottenere. Secondo me porterà molta partecipazione, un risveglio un po' delle coscienze e una riunificazione dei cittadini e dei cittadini, lavoratrici e lavoratori, per lottare fortemente e anche duramente per i loro diritti. Quindi insomma invitiamo a insorgere tutti quanti il 18 con noi e anche a seguire, perché secondo me insomma, faremo delle altre. Grazie.
Conclude, I wanted to invite everyone to participate in the national demonstration that will be taking place here in Florence on Saturday 18th, this Saturday. The motto, the guiding slogan of the demonstration is Rise Up, which is a slogan which is drawn from the tradition of partisan struggles during the resistance, and obviously the partisans fought against a much worse enemy, but also actually the enemy that we're fighting against is pretty bad and pretty devious, so it's an appropriate parallel. And we think that our slogan of Rise Up, Insorgiamo in Italian, shows that all mobilizations and all initiatives have to come from below, from the grassroots, and be taken forward in a collective mentality and be incisive and determined. Otherwise, there is, it's much harder to get any results. And we hope that, this mobilization under the slogan of Rising Up Together will act as a call for reawakening and unifying, consciousness of workers, citizenship, and citizens more broadly in different sectors, in different situations, to fight collectively for our rights. So hope to see many of you on Saturday the 18th, 3 p.m. at Fortezza d'Abbasso here in Florence, and also in all the mobilizations that will surely follow over the next few weeks. And thanks again, Roberto.
Thank you, grazie Roberto. Thank you for sharing the experience and the reflections, and I'm sure there will be later questions and comments, and I'm sure everybody feels a lot of solidarity with your struggle. as a researcher, I can only make some comments at a more general level. Here we have an intersection of two negative trends in industrial relations, which we still are trying to understand and in their own implications. One is the fragmentation of the production process. Now, for those who don't know the history of the Italian manufacturing, local manufacturing, the GKN operations in Florence used to belong to Fiat, the Italian national car producer. Only in 1994 they were outsourced to GKN. Actually, at the time, the Fiat factory was where now we have the University of Florence. And if we had held, we were thinking of holding this conference at the University of Florence, that would have been physically where the production had been, which symbolically would have been even more striking. And I remember, because I was studying industrial relations as a student in the early 90s, and there were other cases of restructuring, because Fiat was a very integrated company with more than 70% of the production in-house. It's not working? Oh my gosh. Oh, sorry. Yes, I think there was maybe a problem with connection with Brussels. Sorry. So, because of 70% of the production was in-house, let's say, every case of restructuring, I remember there were cases in the early 90s, became immediately a conflict with the whole large multinationals. There was a possibility to bring the struggle and the negotiation at a higher level. Immediately it actually became a national policy situation. With the fragmentation of the value chain in many sectors, including the automotive sector, that means that it becomes more difficult. GKN produces parts, important parts, the axles, semi-axles for Fiat cars in particular, but it's not something that the workers can immediately force the buyers to get involved. We have a dramatic decline as an effect of the fragmentation of industrial production of the social responsibility of enterprises towards the subcontracting chain, and a much more difficult situation for any kind of regulation and negotiation. The second trend is the financiarization. GKN has been taken over a few years ago by an investment fund, and we know that investment funds, not only they are driven by short-term consideration that often contrast with industrial policy and with social policy and employment policy, but even worse, often the financial market takes restructuring of this kind and reduction in employment levels as a positive indicator of restructuring. Therefore, we have speculative restructuring only for the purpose of increasing dividends or share prices in the short term, whatever the effects for the industrial structure and the social structure in the longer term. So this is what is very important for us to reflect on. Myself, then, I can only add that I've been doing research on relocations, in particular in the automotive sector, especially after the enlargement of the European Union. This case we are discussing today is not exactly a relocation, but GKN at the same time is also shutting a factory in the United Kingdom, in Birmingham, to relocate it to Poland. And we had found, when studying this, and this has been then confirmed by other colleagues who've done similar research on a more quantitative basis in Canada, that the kind of strategies that can be used to contrast restructuring and relocation depend very much on the kind of segmentation of the production structure and the kind of operational integration with the rest of the value chain. In addition, other factors are the autonomy of local management in comparison to the headquarters of the multinationals, and the exposure or non-exposure to competition outside the European Union, that is with Asia or with Northern Africa or other places. From this constellation, it depends whether the reaction from trade unions and for workers has to focus more on the local level or the transitional level, whether it can be proactive, it has the resources to be proactive and in a way foresee these situations, or whether this is actually impossible. I would say as a little sign of hope that in this case there are power resources certainly on the side of workers as well, because not only the production is an important one, but and not only the workers have been able to gain so-called political power, have been very visible in the local public arena, but we are talking here of productions that is extremely high value, which involves high skills. Florence has very little left of that, so it's absolutely crucial for local powers to do something with it. It will be dramatic if all this kind of production disappears from the local area, and we are left with only tourism and little other activities. But also, I would like to I'm not a technician, but the GKN factory in Florence produces axles which are needed also for electric cars. So we shouldn't take the absolutely needed restructuring in relation to the energy problem and the environmental transition. We shouldn't use that as a rhetoric to say that this kind of production is not needed. That is not the case in this case, and more in general, that means that transition has to be just, has to involve worker rights. I will maybe then say something later if the discussion moves to the European level about the fact that in the last few years the European Commission, European Union has spoken about social issues a bit more. We have a social pillar, we have a revised European Works Council directive, we have a few things, but we see all the time that information and consultation that are mentioned so often in legal and political acts of the European Union, as in this case, remain absolutely empty, and therefore we have to move from a rhetoric to more substantial regulations. Thank you, and now I'll leave it to Andrea Brunetti of FIAM, who I understand wants to speak in English, but if there is any is near me, so I may help a little bit in case something requires some English addition. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks a lot again. Thanks a lot for the invitation. I will go with English, even if I didn't prepare my intervention. So I apologize if I will miss something, especially technical words, which I forget, definitely, in the last 3 years with the pandemic crisis. There are lots of things to say about this company and this situation. First of all, I want to clarify one thing, which is part of the role of the union in Florence, but not only. At the moment, workers in the company, in GKN, are not in an illegal occupation. Workers at the moment, they are in a permanent assembly, which is a formula which we studied due to another case, another company, which is Baccaro, which took place 4 years ago in Florence. And we, in Florence, we all remember this case, and just to help workers to be into the company, just to control the fact that the company will not take out all the machines, we studied this formula, which is legal. It's an important thing just to say that also as a union, we are learning seen the aggressivity and the aggressive policies and the choices of the multinational companies, we are forced to learn new formulas to defend workers and to just not to leave them alone, and just to be able to stronger to enforce our battles, because battles they are. So this is the main point of this situation, because without this permanent assembly, we will not take over. We will not go on with this situation. So if you don't defend the machines, you cannot do the other things you are doing and we are doing. So second things, we are fighting this battle as a union, obviously with the mobilization of workers. We are together with them, we are supporting them. We are doing this also in tribunals, because one of the main points at the moment, which could also turn into another situation, this situation in GKN, is that we are waiting for the judgment about a legal issue that we raised to the Florence Tribunal, in which we are asking to the judge to remove the anti-union actions that the company put in action, not to obstacle the union action. Roberto was saying that just in half an hour they were into the company. In half an hour after the communication, the world record occupation that I call permanent assembly in the world. Okay. This is part of the anti-union actions that the company put in action itself, not to let us to do our work. We are waiting for a sentence in this case, because this sentence could, what we asked to the judge is to remove completely this anti-union action, which could mean to block the firing procedure and to force the company to open it again, to open the procedure again. So this could turn the development of this situation in another way. If we, I remind to everyone that in Italy we have 75 days after you start the firing procedure, after the company starts the firing procedure. If we manage to block this situation, we have at least 75 days more, which could be put us in another situation, even for the mobilization and all the rest. This means that we are fighting in all the contests that we need. We are fighting in tribunals, we are fighting in the streets, we are fighting in the company and against the company. For instance, and this is another point that is very important to know, as you could understand from Roberto's words, we are in one of the most organized, I'm talking about the union action into the company, one of the most organized company in the world, in Italy. So we are in a contest in which the union and the shop stewards level and all that all the things that we put in action in time, in years, is very strong. So when we say that if companies at multinational level, but not only, they managed to do this in GKN in Florence, they could really do it everywhere, because they didn't, the anti-union action from the company, as Roberto was saying, was put in action by the company, because if they respected all the agreements that we had at national level and also in GKN level, they would not go out from the company. So they had not to respect the law and the agreements, because otherwise they could not put in action the closure of the company. And this is, it's a shame for our country, and for, I would say, not only for our country, since this is a European issue, not only an Italian issue. I want to remind to all of us that there are also 80 workers into the company that are that are working in the outsourced company, workers of the cleaning for the cleaning of the company, of the plant, and all the other workers. So workers into the plant are not 422, but more than 500. Okay. And there is one point which is interesting us as a union and also institutions at each level, is that the condition of the 422 workers inside that belongs to GKN are in a different condition, dramatic but different condition, from the 80 workers of the outsourced company, because there are 40 workers from the outsourcing that are not getting their wage at the moment. Instead, GKN workers, they are paid at least until 22 of September. So in these 3 months, we had to face also different conditions starting from the same point. They are all working inside the same plant. They are all working inside GKN, but we don't have furlough schemes, if this is the word, or wage compensation schemes. They are not the same. They are not starting from the same condition. So they are starting from the same condition. They are all fired, but in different ways, and also with different wage compensation system. Some of them, they don't have wage compensation system, not even COVID compensation system. Okay, this is another thing that in these value chain models and in this fragmentation that we have everywhere. In Italy, we have different conditions starting, we produce different conditions starting from the same workers' condition. This is another issue I want to highlight. As you were saying, this is not a relocation. This is not a relocation due to industrial reason. This is speculation, a financial speculation, which is different from the case I was mentioning before, the Baccaro case. In that case, it was a dramatic thing, an absolutely a shaming thing, but it was an industrial situation. In this case, the relocation is just part of the of what the company say and tell to gli azionisti, to the shareholders, just to tell how they are optimizing their business model, their industrial policy, etc., etc. And it's used just to tell them, not because in this way they will really optimize their industrial business. Because some of the relocation is going to GKN other plants in Europe which have not salary costs in countries like France or Germany or Spain. It is not so different, the salary cost from Italy. So it's not only Poland, okay? So this is another element. And this is probably the issue that has been highlighted less in this situation. We are talking about multinational, even in this country. We have to divide, we have to highlight that there are some multinational companies which have an industrial business core business, but there are multinational that have a financial core business. And this is the case, that the second case is this one. When they presented the plan to close the GKN plant in Florence, in Campi Bisenzio, they presented numbers that have a kind of magician, let's say, background, because nobody could say that these numbers, these statistics will go on in the next 5 years. We don't even know which kind. I attended some industrial meetings 4 years ago about the future of automotive, and I'm sure that we are developing technologies, and also it's related with also the sustainability and all that stuff, so that we know the automotive is very complex. But what is the scenario presented by the company in 2025 is not a real scenario. And they are closing Firenze based on numbers that are not, I would say, not real at all, but not only the main provision that we could do on the automotive sector. The last thing I would say is that, and I'm closing here, then I am open to answer to your question, is that yesterday Carlos Tavares, the CEO of Stellantis, declared to reduce the shifts in Sevel. Sevel is the company placed in Abruzzo, in Italy, that produces Ducato. GKN, Florence, produces 50% of bar shafts for Sevel in Abruzzo. The reduction of shifts in Sevel is from 21 shifts to 15 shifts, which means that there could be a redundancy of 1,100 workers in Abruzzo in the next months. When we talk about industrial policy, I mean, it's, and what was saying Roberto, and we all agree about this, I think, is something that comes from far away. 10 years ago, when was the FCA at that time business plan of the next 8 years, determine a very hard let's say, rottura, a very hard break also between the unions. We were saying that that business plan was not, we didn't believe to that business plan. And after 10 years, we could say that we didn't have the magician crystal, but we were right. Because in 10 years, that plan wanted to saturate, is this word? To saturate all the Italian plans of FCA, which never happened, and also put the base to develop the next phase of FCA in Italy. We managed to make a fusion with PSA, which is now Stellantis, in which we are very weak at the moment, and the reduction of from 21 to 15 shifts in Sevel, which is directly related to the situation in GKN, and we believe that there is a strict link between these two situations, is something that is starting 10 years ago. As FIOM, we have been out of FCA plans for 10 years. We managed to get back in to have union rights into FCA after winning in tribunals against FCA. So when we talk about, we have seen a strong role also of the institutions and policy and parties in this situation. We have to start from that time, I think. So the last 10 years is not only something that is related with workers' rights, it's something that is related, workers that keeps together workers' rights and industrial policies. And we want, if we want to start from GKN to invert these trends, we have to work on this side, because when we said from the beginning of this situation that we didn't have a counterpart because the company was already gone, and it is still gone, but our counterpart is the institutions, and we want that this government, if they take advantage from this situation, if they read, if there is a lecture of this situation which is correct, I think that they have to start from this situation to change some laws in this country. Some laws about, I repeat, workers' rights, and some laws that are related to industrial policies. And thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Andrea. And now, still in the spirit of alternation, I'll give the floor to Lorenzo Cini, who is a researcher here at Scuola Normale Superiore and is an expert of social mobilization and protest in labor contests, and not only that. Thank you.
Thank you, Guglielmo. Thank you, everybody. I will start my intervention on a more personal note at the beginning, by saying that I'm very glad that IREC and Scuola Normale Superiore are hosting as first event of this International Conference on Industrial Relations, these ongoing struggles and the workers of GKN, because for me this has two political meanings, a double, let's say, political meaning. The first one, it indicates the interest of the European community of scholars on this case. And this interest goes beyond the mere scholarly purpose, as something much more, to do with political and social reason. Indeed, the way the system of industrial relation in Europe will be reshaped after the COVID crisis does matter for the lives of workers, for our lives more in general. So it's a compelling political matter. It's not only a matter for specialists. And so therefore I'm glad that our community of scholars at the international level is taking a very clear stand on this. The stand is the position of workers at the workers' side. But there is also another second personal reason why I'm happy today to host these people, to host the workers, and that's to do with the Scuola Normale Superiore, which is a center hosting, myself, I'm part of it, Cosmos, that is a center of social movement studies, specialized on current mobilization beyond the world of work, of course. Although some of us are also activists in various social and political organizations, it's always refreshing for us, for the Scuola Normale Superiore, to host an event in which an ongoing struggle is presented and be taken seriously. It helped us to break down the dynamics of ivory tower that our university and ourselves, also for competitive institutional pressure, that we daily experience undergo. So thank you again to the GKN workers for having accepted our invitation to be part of this event, to start this conference. now, very briefly, I will start my more scholarly intervention, focusing on the issue on which I'm expert, that is social movements, and I will have this approach to look at the issue of GKPN struggle. Here, I would reverse the perspective again. The issue here is not much of what the community of AR scholars of social movements can teach to these workers, but is precisely the other way around. What these workers can teach us. I believe that GKPN struggles can teach us two lessons. Not only to us, to social movement scholars, to industrialization scholars, also to trade union representatives, also to the community, the larger community of political activists and trade union activists all over Italy, but not only. And as these two lessons interrogate our political and scholarly assumptions. The first issue, the first let's say, good news lesson that we might learn from these people is that we shouldn't limit the analysis of current labor mobilization to a mere trade unionist perspective. As the CECCAGNO working are teaching and are showing us since the early July, and in line, by the way, with a rising international labor literature, actually, their struggle, prompted by a unilateral decision of the management, has been carried out and organized since the very beginning by the workers themselves, with a political role, key political role played by the Collettivo di Fabbrica, the factory collective. Well, this bottom-up organization, this organization and mobilization from below, to me, has encompassed several aspects, both political and logistical, whose effective realization is determining the success of the mobilization up to now, at least. Here I listed a non-exhaustive list of a set of them. The first aspect that to me it has been successful, it is part of, it's crucial to this mobilization, is there is an ongoing, very effective factory occupation, first. Second, there is a clear and responsive decision-making process, able to deal with the most urgent issues at stake daily. 3, there is a coordinated organizational infrastructure for the factory shifts and for the occupied factory life. 4, there is a centralized coordination of all the political repertoire of action, rallies, demonstrations, strike, and so on. 5, there is a high organizational capacity to set up and implement the most various communicative action for the wider public, leafleting, public conferences and meetings, as this one, by the way, a participation and organization concert and other cultural activities and events across the Italian territory. 6, there is a political orientation and organizational ability to make strategic alliances with other worker struggles and the landscape of social movements at the national level. And finally, but not less important, they are showing a pragmatic approach in confronting political institutions and policy makers. So this is, in my view, is the very first good news that this struggle is teaching us, and we should, in a way, take, learn from them from different perspectives, from scholarly and socio-political. But there is also, in my view, a second good news that is not new, actually, not even this one in the universe of industrial relation scholarship, that we can learn anyway from the ongoing struggle. That we should get rid of the idea that the workplace is the only site of struggle and of organization. Indeed, most of the above political organizational capacity that I just not exhaustively listed would not be possible or would not be so effectively carried out without the cohesive and solid support of the surrounding local community. In particular, the creation, since the early phase of the mobilization of the solidarity group Insorgiamo con la GKN, Raise Up with the GKN, made up of Florentine social movements, organizations, social center, and rank and file political groups, has been crucial for the implementation of several tasks. More specifically, the support of this group operating on a weekly regular basis with an assembly has been crucial for three of these three features that I have underlined before on this organizational capacity. First, the issue of shift. The execution of the shifts in the factory during the August break, when most of the workers were in their planned period of vacation, to protect the occupation from potential external threats. For instance, the company's squads aiming at seizing back the technological machinery for the production in the new factory site. Second, a system of coordinated steward. This group has offered and still offer, will offer also next Saturday, logistic support for the activity of stewards at the demonstration in a very important way. Crucial way. And finally, but not the last thing, not the least, dissemination activities. The activities and the communication for all the public and political events concerning GKN struggle with very innovative forms of leafleting and other very innovative forms of communication. So this is one of the tasks on which this group has been relevant. There are also many other aspects on which this group is still be relevant and without which this occupation wouldn't be so effective. But I want to conclude, then I'm almost done my intervention, on a more critical note, as I have two open questions to the wider public, to the other people who are sitting also in this round table, that in my view, of course, they can only be addressed over the next week. The first question deal with this. For how long can this mobilization resist and endure without the logistical support and financial resources of a national organization? Because for the moment, we have still a local mobilized type of organization. Secondly, and the related question, what kind of political perspective on the longer run may this mobilization have without the support of a national organization or of a coalition of forces able to scale up and generalize the conflict, at least at the national level? In this respect, and in I connecting myself with the last part of Roberto's intervention, which room of maneuver will this struggle have for the promotion and possibly the approval of a national law effectively designed to contrast this and the future processes of delocalization in Italy and possibly also in Europe? Thanks.
Thank you, Lorenzo. And the last planned contribution for this morning is from Aline Conchon, who joins us from Brussels. So we have a little bit of new technology as well in that sense. Please, Aline, it should all work. We made a test, so we are listening to you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, colleagues. I trust you can hear me and see me, which is the question we've been asking for more than a year now that we are used to online conferences and meetings. Thanks a lot for this pre-Congress session. I would like indeed to go on with congratulating the IREC Scientific Committee and the colleagues from FIOM and GKN site in Florence who are here this morning for this quite important and very topical discussion, I guess. Restructuring, maybe worth mentioning and explaining a bit who Industrial Europe is, not sure everyone is familiar, so Industrial Europe is the European Trade Union Federation of the manufacturing, mining and energy workers. We represent altogether 7 million working men and women across Europe. And when I say Europe, it's not just European Union, because we do coordinate the activities of 180 trade union organizations in 38 countries. I think I really want to start with first a strong message, which is Roberto, Andrea, please tell all the colleagues at FIOM and at GKN that you have the full support of Industrial Europe in this amazing struggle that you've been conducting for so many years now. Because as you both mentioned very clearly, nowadays you're very active, you have tremendous mobilization, and that's because there have been work done by the trade unions for years on the site, in the region and in the country. We also tried our best in this fight on GKN. Industrial Europe is active on the case because also, as you mentioned, Guglielmo, unfortunately, it's not just Firenze. At the moment we're talking, we have colleagues in the Birmingham site in the UK who voted massively for strike action. So starting on the 27th of September, they will do pretty much exactly the same as what is happening in Firenze, which is permanent, continuous strike action on the site to prevent the closure of the Birmingham site as well. And this is maybe one thing that I'm very concerned about. It's not just Firenze, and it's not just GKN, and it's not just happening now. We've seen exactly the same story repeating again and again and again and over again at Industrial Europe over the past years. This idea of a company that announced last minute by emails with no social dialogue the entire closure of a plant and the forced redundancies of hundreds or thousands of workers is not new and is still going on. I have in mind, for instance, the case of Caterpillar. In 2016, they announced same setting, same story, by email to workers on a day that they would shut down a plant in Belgium and that they would dismiss 3,000 workers almost overnight. We had massive struggle. In the end, we could not prevent the closure of the plant, but we did put in place mechanism to accompany the workers so that there are solutions afterwards. But it's been massive struggle for a company, a multinational company like GKN, who had no problem breaching rights, breaching national law, and taking last-minute decision only based on financial consideration. Same story some years later. Honda in the UK, 2019, they shut down the plant in Swindon. Overnight, they said they would throw on the street and with no job and no job opportunity in a very difficult region, 3,500 workers. And again, a year later, Nissan in Barcelona, in Spain, announced last minute that they would shut down the plant and again have 3,000 workers just being dismissed overnight. I can go on because we have many, many, many examples like this. And this is maybe one of the problems. The problem is what is really the trend that we can see. The trend, what we can see is that it's still going on because there is no proper policies put in place to avoid that we are facing with those kind of restructuring. And when I say those kind of restructuring, is a very particular kind of restructuring. It is a restructuring where even if the company has made investment on the site, this is not a guarantee that the site will survive. Even if the site is profitable, it is not a guarantee that the site will survive. Even if you had concession bargaining in some cases, where workers and trade unions agreed to make concessions about working time, on holiday that would be cut, for instance, on wage freeze, even if you have those concession bargaining, this is not a guarantee that the site will not close. Even if you have full dedication of workers for many years, working daily and being highly committed on the company, it is not a guarantee that the company and the site will survive. And this is it because we have management which are indeed driven by financial mindset only, that is short-term, that is saving cost, that is relocating or moving production to so-called low-cost country. We have a situation where this management, again, are not afraid at all of not complying with their legal obligation. They don't see the problem. GKN, I can tell you that over the summer, we sent a letter to management and also trade unions from different countries in a show of solidarity with colleagues of Firenze, from Spain, from Germany, from the UK, sent letter to management to say you cannot disrespect the legal obligation you have to have proper social dialogue, and proper social dialogue means you don't take the decision before you first have a discussion with the local representative and you discuss alternatives, because forced redundancies and plant closure is the last resort option. They replied to us saying that they do not see the problem, that they were absolutely comfortable, that they complied with everything, and that, by the way, when it comes to letters coming from outside of the Firenze site, so from colleagues from Germany or from Industrial Europe, this is not our business. So they were very happy to receive our letter, but they believe that they only have to deal with not even representative, actually. They will only have to deal with the employees directly. So for them, just sending an email directly to employees with no respect for trade unions or representative is not a problem. And I think this is where I would like maybe to put an emphasis. This is a shame. This is not just a shame for the company. As Andrea mentioned, it is not just the company problem, it's also a problem that has to do with the legislation in Italy and with the legislation in Europe. Now, is it getting better? I think this is also maybe the question we can ask ourselves. If you have that broader perspective, saying that it's not just GKN, it's not just Firenze, it's been going on for years, is it getting better? So Guglielmo, you said, well, we can see that there is a bit more social in these pitches from Europe and the Brussels bubble. I'd love to agree with you. I can't really, if I have to say. I can't really, and I'm very concerned because all we hear about the more social Europe is really PR, communication, window dressing for quite some time. The European Union adopted the European Pillar of Social Rights in 2017. We're talking about something that happened 4 years ago. And here we are today discussing exactly the same problem that we've been facing. So where is the progress? And where I'm extremely concerned, and that where we are extremely concerned in Industrial Europe, is that nowadays we are in a context which is super challenging, maybe the most challenging context ever. You have Brexit, which is also disrupting quite a lot of the automotive industry, as we are talking about automotive industry. You have the COVID-19 crisis. You have the challenge of decarbonization, and we want to anticipate climate change. You have the challenge of digitalization. You have the challenge of globalization still not properly regulated, and trade arrangement also not helping in this fight against last-minute financially driven management decision. So we have a non-favorable context, and we have a non-favorable European Commission and European Brussels bubble. What we see nowadays is that when we at Industrial Europe try to intervene on those company cases to support colleagues as much as possible, we go to the European Commission and we tell them, guys, as you used to do in the 80s, for instance, act, intervene, take contact with the management, ask them about their industrial plan, ask them more about their figures. As Andrea mentioned, it's not always clear on which accurate figures those decisions are taken. we now face a European Commission that answers us and say, well, we don't intervene in company cases any longer, and if you have a problem, you go to the member states where the situation is happening. And when you go to the member states where the situation is happening, you could face a Ministry of Labour who would say, well, but if you have a problem with non-compliance of legislation which is coming from Europe, because the rights for information and consultation, they are also coming from European directive, then we have the Ministry of Labour saying, well, please liaise with the European Commission. So we have a ping-pong game nowadays where the European Commission is telling us, go to the member states, and the member states go to the European Commission. So it really is a gloomy picture, I guess, that I'm presenting now. And I think this is the context in which industrial Europe is acting nowadays. And we are acting with massive lobbying that we are conducting in conjunction and in coordination with the other European Trade Union Federation and the European Trade Union Confederation as well. And our fights nowadays are really on 5 items and 5 topics, which will very much reflect the fights that Andrea mentioned also taking place in Italy. The first fight we have and demand and lobbying action we have is about industrial policy. So we are, and when I say we, I'm talking about all the European trade unions, but I'm also talking about European employer associations or industry associations, by the way, that we are demanding that there is a proper framework to accompany the transformation of our industries, starting with the automotive industries. That there must be tools, there must be strategy, there must be discussion at European level to rethink and prepare the transformation of the automotive industry, because it cannot be that the transformation is made at the expense of workers. So first fight is proper industrial policy. Second fight is we have to have long-term thinking in companies. And on this is a fight that we are fighting in the field more of company legislation. There is, and we hope that soon we will have a proposal from the European Commission for what they call sustainable corporate governance, where there might be finally some discussion about the fact that companies should be run on the long term, and that there is a duty of the management, of the directors of a company, to think long term when they think about a strategy of a company. And so we're not only driven by financial consideration. Third fight is on social dialogue rights. That's information, consultation, and participation. That's also collective bargaining. And if you want to have collective bargaining and you want to have social dialogue, you have to have strong trade unions. And on this, there's quite a lot of, again, nice Sunday speeches from the European Commission and the European Union about the fact that social dialogue is so important. Social dialogue proved efficient during the COVID-19 crisis, and that it has to be supported. Collective bargaining structure has to be restored, but we are still waiting for proper and concrete proposal from the European Commission. What we are also very clearly demanding when it comes to information, consultation, and participation rights is not new legislation. We are simply asking that the legislation that exists is complied with, that it's not such a problem and obstacle when we want to go to court and have proper sanction and dissuasive sanction to management who are not complying with our legislation. Because nowadays, again, GKN is a very good example of a company that don't care about not complying, because they know that even if you go to court, the sanction will be so weak that maybe they have already budgeted that sanction in their budget. So compliance and enforcement of our rights is absolutely key. Fourth item we are fighting for is also anticipation. We can't continue with companies that just make decisions on a quarterly basis. It has to be long-term, as I mentioned, and it means also long-term social policies, skills policy, employment policies at the level of the companies. We need companies to start having strategic planning of employment, of skills and training, because we know that the industry is undergoing massive transformation, and we want workers to be trained, retrained, upskilled, to be ready to embrace the future jobs that are coming out of the new industry. Last item, where I will conclude on now, is our fight for, finally, the social dimension of the economic policy. You have to have social conditionalities attached to all the economic policy, especially those related to COVID-19. So you had in Italy that system of ban of redundancies during the COVID-19 crisis, which is now lifted, and that is one of the reasons now that we see that new wave of massive layoff and job destruction plan. It cannot be. When you received support from the public institution with public money, which is the money of workers, you have to have social responsibility in the way you behave as a company. So these are the 5, and actually we have much more fights going on, I guess, in the European Brussels bubble. But that's what is keeping us very busy, in addition to bringing our best support and solidarity to workers in Firenze. We will continue to act together with GKN workers in Firenze, in Birmingham, and we do hope that this struggle would pay off and that eventually no worker is left behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aline. We now can open the floor to questions. People are also welcome to ask questions on the YouTube chat, for which I realize you have to actually log in, because unfortunately, well, platform capitalism requires, demands your data in case it can make money out of it. And we actually already have a question of somebody who didn't manage to log in on YouTube and was sent the question through another channel. Dr. Rebecca Gamble-McCormick from Birkbeck College in London. She asked a double question. It was asked about half an hour ago, so maybe the first has already been answered. It was about whether there is any international solidarity from Industrial, which I would say that Aline has already answered positively, but maybe we can then discuss it more. The second question is on whether, given that we have heard the FIOM CGIL union, whether the other 2 main Italian trade unions, that is CISL and WIL, are involved. Just in case somebody is not familiar with Italian trade union landscape, there are 3 big confederations: CGIL, CSL and WIL, plus a number of small independent trade unions. CGIL is the more left-wing oriented of the 3, and FIOM is the metalworking federation within CGIL. I can say the CGIL is also bigger than the other 2, and especially in this region and especially in this sector. But certainly also the other 2 trade unions exist in the area. So maybe, I don't know whether Andrea or Roberto want to answer about what the other trade unions are doing. It's a request for information.
Vabbè, questa considerazione magari meglio ne parli Brunetti, però chiaramente ovviamente noi facciamo parte della nostra estrema maggioranza FIOM, e quindi insomma è chiaro che l'appoggio della nostra struttura è molto maggiore. In generale insomma non entriamo in polemiche sindacali, però secondo noi l'importante, no, anche perché non mi compete, insomma io prima di tutto sono un lavoratore, infatti anche prima quando parlo di noi non è tanto l'RSU ma parlo dell'assemblea dei lavoratori, cioè di tutti i lavoratori, da anni tutti insieme. Poi è chiaro che abbiamo come riferimento principale, però non è quello che ci ha dato forza nella lotta, insomma è la partecipazione di tutti. Se ognuno di noi non mette del proprio dentro questa lotta in maniera attiva, sicuramente la lotta dura poco, c'è poco da fare. E invece noi insomma finora abbiamo dimostrato, appunto, anche tramite l'appoggio degli esterni, diciamo, di solidali, come li chiamiamo noi, che ci danno una mano. Oltre alla popolazione dei lavoratori c'è stato questo mischiarsi, diciamo, di esperienze e di idee che sta portando avanti la lotta a un piano superiore. Secondo me, insomma, potrebbe essere, diciamo, non ti dico un esempio, no, perché ce ne sono tanti altri, per l'amor di Dio non siamo assolutamente gli unici, però insomma, visto che abbiamo questa visibilità, forse portare avanti questo tipo di iniziative secondo me è fondamentale proprio per recuperare i diritti del lavoro e anche una ripresa economica, sociale, perché tanto la partecipazione della cittadinanza, del lavoratore e delle lavoratrici fa evolvere una società. Quando invece questa partecipazione manca, le cose si fermano o regrediscono.
So Roberto says that obviously the main trade union representatives, I mean the main organization that represents workers at the level of the factory is FIOM CGIL. So it is not surprising that the support that the dispute has received from FIOM CGIL is much greater than from the other organizations. But it says also he doesn't want to get into any polemics or disputes between unions because he is first and foremost a worker. And so when I talk about us, I talk about our assembly of workers. I don't talk about just the trade union representatives. Obviously, we have a lot of organizational support from FIOM CGIL as a representative organization, but it is not the union itself that gives strength to this dispute and to our mobilization. It's the workers themselves. It's a direct participation of the workers that gives strength to the mobilization. Obviously also thanks to the support of the broader network of solidarity that we have talked about before from different other social movement realities that is able to bring the struggle to a higher level of politicization and to give greater visibility with this goal of recuperating labor rights and also facilitating a truly inclusive economic and social recovery. So on the question of exactly the other unions, perhaps the comrade from FIOM CGIL is better placed to comment.
So thanks for the question. We as FIOM CGIL, we are the most representative union, as has been said already. When I'm saying the most representative union, I'm saying that we are really representative inside this factory, this plant. The other unions have some members and also one shop steward, so they are not outside of the plant, obviously, but there is a situation at the moment which is ongoing. There are differences, obviously. We are in a democracy, and we can also think different things sometimes. But when we are talking about if we want to put this struggle into perspective, and also if we think that the counterpart is not the company itself, but at the moment it is also the government itself, it's obviously that we need to enlarge this struggle. We need the help of everybody, as Roberto was saying. Everybody in this struggle has its role, which is important. The permanent assembly, it's run by the workers and it's managed by the workers. It's not always like this, which is something that is very helpful also for the union, because we have in Florence, just to give you some numbers, as FIOM CGIL, we have 8,000 members. In GKN, we have 300 members. Okay, so if we are managing ourselves, if we should manage ourselves, the permanent assembly, it's normal that we should forget all the other 7,700 members, which are only in Florence. So everybody in this struggle has its role, and we are lucky that I was saying in the previous intervention that this is one of the most organized shop stewards and assembly in this, probably in Italy. So we are lucky, and everybody has its role. With the other union, we need to build the future of this, not only of this struggle, but of the mobilization in this country with the thing, related to the things that we were talking before. As you were asking, the national level, as CGIL yesterday or the day before, we had a shop steward assembly with 2,500 workers from all the sector, which was built and put in place to give a future and a perspective to all the mobilization of the autumn. And in this case, the shop stewards from GKN had an intervention which was very appreciated by everyone. So at the moment, inside CGIL, I could say that this is a very important struggle, which has to be central, not only this one. We have to remind to everybody Giannetti Ruote in Monza, which is same thing, because it is an investment fund, property, and it is automotive sector, Timken. So we have other struggle that have kind of similar contests and properties. So we need to give a future to these struggles altogether, and obviously the other unions are important, and to share with the other unions, and I would say also with citizens, to enlarge the mobilization, this struggle. Otherwise, this autumn we will have no more GKN, no more Timken, no more Giannetti Ruote. From the 31 of October, we won't have a lot of more, because it will end up the block of firing. So we will have also other sectors that will go in a difficult situation, and it is normal that at the moment we have to keep together this contest, this conjunctural struggle on GKN and the others with what will come after this.
Thank you very much. We have two questions now from the floor here. One is back. We'll have to share the microphone. One person there. Okay, sorry, you have to move up there. And then another one. Please introduce yourself, even if you are well known. Also, because of the masks, we sometimes struggle to recognize even old colleagues.
Speak into the microphone. Yes, I'm coming from Oslo, Norway. So a European North representative, and it's very, very impressive to listen to the story you have told. It's very impressive what you have managed to mobilize and organize of resistance and imagination in how to try to resist these very, very difficult processes. As a European scholar in this field, and we also have GKN sites in Norway. We have actually been studying one of them, but that's in aerospace, military aerospace, and that's more protected, so we haven't seen things like this, but you never know, so we take notice. But my question is very simple. From a European perspective, where are the headquarters? The headquarters of GKN Automotive. And do you have had contacts with the trade unions or worker organizations by the headquarters, or other networks or cooperation with European labor representatives within GKN automotive. I mean European Works Councils or networks where you can get support or coordinate or anything like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jon Erik. From which level would you prefer the answer? Any from the bottom? We start from the bottom. Okay, good. Please, Roberta.
Ringrazio il collega, diciamo. Insomma, sì, effettivamente sarebbe fondamentale allargare, diciamo, la nostra lotta, la nostra collaborazione anche non solo a livello nazionale ma chiaramente a livello europeo, soprattutto anche approfittando degli organismi che sono tipo il CAI. Però sinceramente, poi ora non voglio fare in cattiva luce nessuno, però sinceramente da quel punto di vista siamo abbastanza indietro, perché abbiamo provato a avere contatti anche con i rappresentanti degli altri stabilimenti già da anni, però si è fermato proprio a questioni formali. Secondo me non c'è proprio ancora la struttura almeno potabile, diciamo, utilizzabile dai singoli delegati alle singole RSU per poter riuscire a connettersi in maniera efficace. Infatti questo, insomma, è un punto che sinceramente noi come lavoratori chiediamo in prima di tutto alla nostra organizzazione di cercare di migliorare notevolmente sotto questo punto di vista. Già abbiamo dei problemi a livello nazionale, perché insomma negli ultimi anni le connessioni fra le varie lotte non sono state proprio, diciamo, si poteva fare molto meglio. A livello internazionale siamo ancora più indietro, dal punto di vista che possiamo vedere noi, poi chiaramente abbiamo una visione limitata, insomma.
So, yeah, he agrees that it would be absolutely fundamental to be able to broaden the collaboration also at the European level and to take advantage of the various bodies that are in place, such as the European Works Council, but to say, to talk sincerely without wanting to put anyone under a negative light, it must be said that we are quite behind on that front, at least for what concerns the level of, shop stewards at the factory level and workers themselves. They have tried to have direct contacts with union representatives in other sites of GKN, including in the UK, but this has not just started now, but actually since many years. But to the extent that these have happened, they have only remained at a very formal and rather superficial levels, because there are essentially not yet the structures that would allow plant-level representatives, shop floor, shop stewards, to connect with one another effectively and to discuss issues more horizontally. So this is something that we have, we have been asking, and we are still asking our representative union from CGL to, help us to improve on in order to put in place this kind of infrastructures. And sometimes it's even hard to connect with different plants at the national level and to connect with different struggles. So to do it at an international level is even harder, but it's something that the union is trying to work on, and perhaps you can say something more on the coordination.
Volevo solo aggiungere, comunque, dai, ce la faremo, ci impegna anche per fare questo.
He wants to add that we will manage in the end. We are trying, and a bit of optimism of the will. It will be possible.
The actual European Works Council legislation obviously has to be strengthened, I think. So what we could say now is that we have also one of our shop stewards is inside the European Works Council. So this helps us to make a bit better than before. But still, European Works Council has to be strengthened in legislation. Obviously, to do this, we should need a movement. We should need a struggle. We should need, and we are doing this. But still, we are weakened. We also have to remember who we have in front of us. At least on this struggle, we have the Vice Minister Todde, who came, which is from Movimento 5 Stelle, who came twice into the plant in Florence. We have the minister, Giorgetti, which is from Lega. It's the same minister, so it's the same ministry, so which is not never intervene in any case, and once intervene, and just what we understood from his words is that it was kind of justifying GKN action. So this is at Italian level. So what we have in front of us at European level, it has the same problem. So if you want to improve the legislation, obviously you have to have some forces in the at the parliamentary level, and not only that, will listen to us. One thing is that at the European level, in GKN, we related to GKN, we had a parliamentary interrogation. This is the word. Because the part about the European Works Council legislation, we think and we believe that has been not respected. So even if it has to be strengthened, the actual legislation has not been respected in the part of consultation and information of trade unions, has not been respected. And this is it's not part of the legal action that we are doing in Italy, but it's part, and hopefully it could be part at the European level of even a legal action.
Thank you, Andrea. Maybe Aline wants also to add something from her observatory, European observatory.
Yeah, thank you, Guglielmo. Yeah, really important question, actually, that may sound technical. Where is the headquarter, but which is absolutely crucial. Headquarter of GKN Automotive is in the UK. The mother company, Melrose, is in the UK. The European Works Council used to be based under UK legislation. And that's the reason why I mentioned Brexit as being one of the elements in the context which is not helping. It's not helping because the post-Brexit, the EWC agreement has to be relocated and is now governed by a new national legislation, which is Germany. So we now have our colleague from Germany, trade union, IG Metall, who are trying indeed to set up contact and had established already contact with a lawyer to challenge the case before court in Germany. Because indeed, as Andrea mentioned, it is absolutely clear there was a breach of the right of the European Works Council, because the European Works Council was only informed the same day as colleagues in GKN Firenze got the email telling them the plant will shut down, you're going to be fired. So there was no consultation, and there was no information even before the decision was taken. There was no proper assessment of the project to potentially close the plant. There was no discussion about potential alternative. There was no possibility to deliver an opinion from the European Works Council. So that is also, as Andrea mentioned, we are trying all different actions that we can, including indeed legal proceeding and legal action to court. But again, Brexit is not really helping because the transition of the agreement is very new. And we have also great difficulties with the European Commission understanding how disruptive Brexit has been on the operation of European Works Council. So we also have been in contact, in permanent contact with the European Commission on many cases of European Works Council where it's quite unclear where you have to go to challenge a decision of a management before court. But this is what we are sorting out. We are pretty happy that the international solidarity is pretty strong from all the trade unions. So we also had initially the colleagues from Unite the Union, the federation in the UK, which was very active, that also tried first to consider whether we could go to the British court because of the breach of the rights of the European Rights Council, and that's how we ended up considering that maybe it's better now to go to Germany, but we have to sort out some clarification. This is additional support, as Andrea mentioned, or additional evidence for the need for improvement of that damn EWC directive and how it is implemented. And again, I want to stress again this problem of compliance and enforcement of the EWC directive. The European Works Council directive as such, if you read the document of the directive, is not that bad. The agreement that govern GK and EWC is not that bad. It could be better. I mean, if you ask me, it always can be better, but it's not that bad. Problem is, the company is not complying with it. Second problem is, when you want to go to court because the company has not complied, it's a damn nightmare. And that's exactly the situation we're in. So on this, international action is taking place, and it's not easy for us to clarify and sort it out. Having an international network of contact, that's also what is taking place with trade union organizations from the different countries. And indeed, we are considering every possible action, considering that the European Commission is not helping, and the national legislation is not helping, and Brexit context is not helping either.
Thank you. Andrea wanted to say another word on this. We are running out of time, but I think we can stay another couple of minutes. So to take also the last question. Please, Andrea, you wanted to add a piece of information.
Yes, just 1 minute, just to add that in January, the European Works Council of GKN signed an agreement and communicate to all the European GKN communicated into the European Works Council that will never proceed to firing or to plant closure without any agreement with the unions in January 2020. This agreement, this communication, we took it directly into the agreement that we signed in February 2020 and July 2020, in the agreement with GKN and with the Tuscan region at that time. Just to say that, and all of this is into the legal action that we are bringing to the Florence court. So it's an important thing. They are not complying about what they write. They are not doing this at the European level, not even at the Italian level. But we see after the sentence that we hope it will give us, it will help us. So we see if at the legal level they have to change their behavior, because if it's not the union, if it's not anyone else that will take them to respect even the agreements that they themselves sign, we hope it could be the court to. We already won 3 legal action against GKN in the last 3 years. Just to be clear. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a last question.
Mario Pianta, I teach political economy here. Thank you for this excellent discussion of a very important challenge. My question is especially for Alina on, besides the defensive struggle that are important, and you have been discussing them very clearly, this strategy by GKN is exemplary of the restructuring by business in a key set of industries, automotive first of all, with the emergence of electric cars and so on. I think a very important novelty could be to challenge this strategy in a proactive way, demanding the opening up of a debate on industrial policy using public policy roles and the public funds. We are in the middle of an unprecedented opportunity with Next Generation Europe providing fund for sustainable transitions, and there is an opportunity for public action to orient, to guide, to shape the trajectory of investment in new areas where the capabilities of JKN in Florence and elsewhere could be sometimes reorganized in the direction of more sustainable production. So why don't we hear more about industrial policy as a terrain of struggle? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I would ask Aline to answer, and then Roberto also to add a few words on a couple of other points that had been raised.
Yeah, thank you for important question. You may remember that when I listed the 5 main topic of actions and action line that we are defending at Industrial Europe, I did start it with industrial policy. And I did mention that the fact, I mean, this is, and not just for the automotive industry. At Industrial Europe, we do cover 11 different industrial sector, but automotive industry for us, together with aerospace and steel industries, which were really the 3 main sectors for us, very hit hard by the crisis, and now also by the decarbonization agenda, are the one where we are struggling and fighting for. And the first line of our action is indeed to demand proper industrial policy and discussion, including with social partners, because this is not just a matter of trade unions being involved, but both employers' associations and trade unions to be involved in the discussion about industrial policy. This is a struggle which have been going on for decades. I'm talking now on behalf of Industrial Europe, but before Industrial Europe, it was a European Metal Worker Federation that also decades ago started to say, well, it's not just a matter of social agenda, it's a matter of an industrial agenda. We are involved as much as we can in the discussion in the European Brussels bubble and also at national level. But as you refer to the next generation and the recovery plan that are under discussion in other countries, we are monitoring very closely how social partners, not just trade unions, but also trade unions are involved in the discussion, and we are not. I think also there is something that we have to bear in mind, is that you have discrepancies in the discussion and the speeches that you can hear in the European Brussels bubble. On the one hand, they say social dialogue is very important, and we want to strengthen collective bargaining, and we want to strengthen social partners. But then when they have in mind that they want to have us play a role in the social dimension of all the industrial and economic decisions which are taken, what we want, and again, we, the social partners, so I want to stress again what I mentioned, that this call for proper industrial policy is a call that is a call coming from a broader alliance, trade unions, employers association, industry association, where we say, you need to have us on board when you discuss about industrial policy, or when you discuss recovery plan, or when you discuss transformation of automotive industry. So that's also the struggle, which is nowadays social partners and trade unions. We are not seen as one key interlocutor in the debate. We are actually now seen just as one stakeholder, as is a new buzzword, out of many others. And that's the best case scenario when they see us as one stakeholder, because as I mentioned, in the next gen policies, in the recovery plan under discussion, social partners are barely informed and certainly not involved in many of the circle for discussion.
Thank you very much. Roberto?
Grazie, volevo concludere. Intanto ringrazio Lorenzo perché ha fatto una relazione molto meglio di me, riuscivo a esprimere, a spiegare molto meglio di quanto l'ho fatto io qual è la situazione. Infatti se mi puoi sostituire, almeno figlio una settimana che è una scherzo. Mi diverto. No, e volevo rispondere, no, davvero, che accentrava più il punto, non è facile, insomma, se un abituato riuscire a mettere in parole quello che hai in testa, non c'è riuscito. Però volevo rispondere appunto alle domande che ci aveva fatto, perché la prima appunto secondo quanto a lungo saremo in grado di portare avanti questa mobilitazione se non c'è un aiuto a livello nazionale come organizzazione, no? E adesso è chiaro che l'aiuto appunto a livello di un'organizzazione a livello nazionale ti porta a un livello superiore, soprattutto per coordinarsi con tutte le altre realtà e per riuscire insomma a portarla proprio a un livello più collettivo e avere una strategia più di lungo termine. Però noi si va avanti da soli, insomma, se questa è chiaramente la richiesta di avere un impegno maggiore da parte della nostra organizzazione e delle organizzazioni sindacali in genere, sulla nostra vicenda, ma in generale sulle problematiche del mondo del lavoro. Comunque noi, come dice una parte del nostro coro, andiamo avanti finché ce ne sarà, nel senso noi ce la mettiamo tutta, siamo stati da anni anche, abbiamo portato avanti diverse iniziative in autonomia e quindi la facciamo sempre chiaramente chiedendo e pungolando l'organizzazione perché riesca a fare un coordinamento a livello nazionale. E anche dal punto di vista... scusi, mi metti
So Roberto wanted to first of all thanking Lorenzo for his intervention, which was very effective in explaining what is the situation at GKN and highlighting some of the very important points about the novelty of this struggle, of this mobilization, and he wanted to take the occasion to reply to the questions that Lorenzo asked at the end of his intervention. So the first question was, how long can this mobilization be sustained without the support from national level organizations? And Roberto says that obviously the help of national level organization is fundamental in order to bring the struggle to a higher level politically, and also to facilitate coordination with a wider coalition of actors and to ensure its sustainability on a more long-term level. And we are continuing to ask, the workers are continuing to ask from a greater involvement from their own national union as well as from other unions, and to some extent that is having results. But he says that even if that was not to happen, we, as in the workers and the broader network of solidarity that has been mobilizing around the GKN dispute, will go on until we have it, until we are able to, is also part of the, the slogan of the mobilization. They are used to acting, so it says, we are used to acting also autonomously and to putting in place autonomous mobilization, and we will try to do so as long as we are able to. At the same time, never stopping to ask and pushing our own representative organization for, a greater level of involvement and of visibility for the struggle.
La seconda domanda. La seconda domanda riguarda appunto cosa ne pensiamo di quanto può essere utile il processo di rinnovare anche la legislazione e di portare appunto delle modifiche alle leggi, e riguarda sia il mondo del lavoro, ora in questo caso specifico sulla delocalizzazione. E ripeto, noi siamo organizzati cercando di coinvolgere tutta la collettività, ma sempre autonomamente, per portare delle proposte nuove che non fossero calate dall'alto ma che vengano dal basso, chiaramente sintetizzate da esperti che le sanno tradurre in regole. E questo processo cerchiamo di portarlo avanti, e non deve essere secondo noi solo per questa legge, per questo caso qui, ma deve essere una cosa che va portata avanti anche quante le leggi che in questi anni sono state massacrate sui diritti del lavoro. E sinceramente anche lì a livello generale e nazionale siamo stati un po' troppo a guardare. Non abbiamo contrastato, perché chiaramente le leggi le fanno i politici, quindi la colpa è la mancanza è della politica, però come anche organizzazioni sindacali e collettività, quindi in primis il singolo cittadino comunque si deve responsabilizzare, se non c'è un'azione di spinta e di richiesta appunto di partecipazione al processo democratico, è chiaro che le leggi buone ne verrà fuori poche, quindi bisogna muoversi da questo punto di vista e cercare di dare un cambio di passo in quello che è stato il contrasto appunto a questo massacro dei diritti sul lavoro, e anche per manifestare c'è stato in questi anni. La risposta è stata troppo debole, sia da parte delle organizzazioni sindacali ma anche dai cittadini, ognuno si deve fare esame di coscienza. Insomma, speriamo almeno che si dia un cambio di passo. Insorgiamo tutti insieme sabato a cominciare da sabato, poi insomma ce ne sarà appunto, spero che ne seguiranno molte altre, non solo per GKN.
Very, very quickly, on Lorenzo's second point about the importance of, national mobilization also at the level of modifying labor law and policy proposal. He says it is, what they are trying to do with bringing forward this law proposals formulated from below and then translated into concrete proposals for amendments with the support of labor law scholars and experts is very important. Is a very important level of action, not only for this dispute, but also to counter a trend which has been ongoing for the last few years in Italy, but not only, of contrasting or trying to contrast the ongoing onslaught and frontal attack on labor rights. And Roberto says that in his impression and from the point of view of the workers involved in the dispute, there has been up until now an excessively passive stance of the labor movements and of the broader citizenry in front of these frontal attacks on labor rights and on the rights of mobilization and strike and demonstrations, which have been carried forward by the governments, various Italian governments over the last 10 years, and that they hope that their attempt at bringing forward law proposals from below can also mark a change of step in the way in which the labor movement and broader social movements are able to intervene at the level of national policy making in order to take a more direct approach in contrasting and fighting against the erosion of labor and social rights. So we hope that this can be the starting point of a broader change of approach from a very passive approach to a more active approach, and that led not only by the unions but also by a broader movement of citizens and workers. And we conclude by Roberto concluded by inviting all of us to rise up together, starting from the mobilization this Saturday, but also for all those that will come in the next few weeks, because there will be many terrains on which to fight.
Few words on this question, because they relate with the different levels also from Andrea.
No, just to, obviously I understand the perspective, and it's normal that we have also different perspective from shop stewards in the company, the union level and all that stuff. I just want to clarify that the national level have always been involved and have always been there. So everybody is doing its work, but in 4 days we managed to declare a general strike in Florence. For instance, the general secretary of the metal sector of film was there, even if it was the provincial level strike. Just to make you understand that I'm talking about CGIL and film in this special case. We have all the union has been involved. There is one thing, obviously, to connect struggles, you don't need the union level, you need the workers. Obviously, the union level has its own role to mobilize the worker and to do this. And what I was mentioning before, the assembly of 2,500 shop stewards that took place 2 days ago, which there were from all the sectors, it's something that it's launching a mobilization. So if you listen to the words to the General Secretary of CGIL, Maurizio Landini, is saying, we're asking to Draghi to call us and convocate us immediately, because there are a lot of things that we also mentioned in this GKN struggle that have been that are really important. We need a consultation with the government. On the relocation issue, obviously, we have never been involved by the government. We just saw at the local level some few different tests of this law. None of these tests and documents have been, we managed to discuss. We think that even in the best documents we have seen out of those that have been circulating in these months, probably none of these could resolve the GKN situation. These are called GKN, it's called GKN law. But if it's not retroactive, so if it's not valid since the 9th of July, this test, these documents, I want to clarify, is not usable for the GKN situation. So we asked the government to be involved for this case and for all the rest, and we are deeply involved in this. And how long we will be there? We hope we have always been there, and we will be there as long as it will need. I mean, this is obviously for any struggle, not only for GKN.
A bit stronger. That is the comment from Roberto. And now, at the next opportunity, we should also have here Draghi and the GKN management if we find them somewhere. But it wasn't possible today. But it was extremely interesting. So thank you very much to all speakers, all participants, in particular to Andrea, to Aline, who joined us from Brussels, and very much thank you to Roberto. It's been exceptionally interesting. And I repeat, for anybody who is in Florence on Saturday afternoon, a unique opportunity for participant observation at 3 p.m. at Fortezza da Basso, which is near the train station, with a national demonstration. So thank you, and this pre-Congress event is closed, and those of you who participate in the conference, we rejoin here at 1, either here or from online. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Close. Oh, blah.